Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Huge news. Simply huge. Former South Dakota State quarterback Mark Gronowski, the Gronk, super Midwest last name, is expected to join the Iowa Hawkeyes. So this video is going to dub as the update video for Iowa's last two gets, both from South Dakota State, and I like both of them tremendously. I'm going to start with Gronowski first. So this will be the transfer portal update part 4, I believe. Part 4. So we'll go over Mark's stats. We'll go over where he fits in the room. And we will go over my analysis of his game tape on top of his stats. And obviously, we'll look at the defensive tackle that Iowa landed as well. More of a long-term project. Although, right off the bat, I do think he will compete for snaps immediately within the rotation. I'm not sure that he'll be a starter, but he'll compete for snaps, and we'll get to that momentarily. So let's start with Mark Gronowski. This was, I pulled up, I've been kind of waiting for the last couple of days. By the way, guys, hit the subscribe button. If you guys haven't yet, and you're a consistent watcher of the channel, who else puts in the work that I do? I have you guys covered every step of the way for all major football, men's basketball news, the occasional wrestling news, the occasional women's basketball news. By the way, Mark Gronowski was a 2-time FCS champion, so he is a winner. So anyways, hit that subscribe button. At the very least, comment. You guys know the drill. We go through this every time. Just tap. Tap, tap, tap. Get a little notification. Just a little tap. Anyways, let's read this from Sean Bach. Iowa has been aggressive in the transfer portal to find a surefire starting quarterback, and the Hawkeyes have their guy, a South Dakota State transfer quarterback. Mark Gronowski is expected to transfer to Iowa to play his final year of college football. Gronowski announced his commitment to the Hawkeyes on Tuesday afternoon. Hashtag Go Hawks. Hashtag LFG. Let's effing go. By the way, according to Elon Musk, hashtags don't really work anymore. It basically puts your posts in the abyss. That's according to him anyways. I know, I was surprised too. I'm pulling up this picture, see what this pic looks like, because I'm recording this on my phone. It's just much easier to do that. Nice edit. I like it. Great edit. Gronowski spurned the NFL draft to play one more year of college football at Iowa. And the thing is, guys, in the modern landscape, it's not necessarily, I think spurning is too strong of a word, because now with NIL, you can make, at times, more money staying in college than you would going to the NFL. Okay, if you're in a situation where you're not guaranteed to be a top 3 round draft pick, preferably top 2 round draft pick, and you play a position like quarterback or running back or like one of the high positions for your team, you can probably make more money staying at or staying in college or whatever the case may be, wherever you're at. Than going to the NFL. So I'm not sure that I would call it spurned, but nonetheless, That is what Sean Bach said. All right. At 6'3", 225 pounds, Gronowski has played 3,034 offensive snaps while starting 55 games. Gronowski won back-to-back FCS national championships in 2022 and 2023. The Jackrabbits lost to North Dakota State in the semifinals in 2024. Gronowski took a red shirt in 2021 as he recovered from an injury that was sustained during national championship game of the spring 2020 season. Right. Gronowski was the Walter Payton Award winner in 2023, which is the FCS equivalent of the Heisman Trophy. Gronowski has thrown for 10,330 yards with 93 TDs and 20 compared to 20 interceptions in his career, while averaging 8.7 yards per attempt. He has also run for 1,767 yards and 37 touchdowns in his college career. This dude is a touchdown machine. In 2024, Gronowski threw for 2,721 yards with 23 touchdowns and 7 INTs while completing 60.9% of his attempts. He also ran for 380 yards and 10 touchdowns on the year. Gronowski's highest graded season came in 2023 with the... let me get this fixed. With 25 touchdowns and 4 interceptions while rushing for 299 yards and 7 touchdowns. The impact. It has been said since prior to the portal opening that the Hawkeyes were going to be aggressive for a quarterback. Iowa got out of the gates early to land Auburn transfer Hank Brown, which is more of a long-term after this year prospect. Okay. And now the Hawkeyes have gotten their likely starter next season in Gronowski. Gronowski has played against FBS competition, but most of his production has come in the FCS ranks, in the toughest FCS conference in the country, in the Missouri Valley. Iowa has been looking to get a starting caliber quarterback in the portal cycle, and Gronowski fits the bill. Iowa will likely have a quarterback competition this spring with Gronowski and Brendan Sully. But Gronowski is the likely favorite given his all-around skill set and the type of passer he is, which Iowa's offense was missing this past season. I agree, which I'll talk about momentarily. Iowa offensive coordinator Tim Lester has continued to revamp the quarterback room in the short time he has been in Iowa City. Iowa will now have 4 scholarship quarterbacks going into next season with Gronowski, Sullivan, Brown, and True Frosh, Jimmy Sully, as well as walk-ons Jackson Stratton and Ryan Fitzgerald. I'm not sure that Jackson Stratton will still be a walk-on. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's start here. Number 1. I've said this previously, but it is even more so the case now. Okay. Tim Lester has come to Iowa and has immediately improved the quality, the competition level of the quarterback room. It didn't happen as quickly or as exponentially in a short period of time as maybe some Iowa fans would like. But given Iowa's struggles offensively, it was never going to be easy for Tim Lester to come in and just get, multiple actual Big Ten level quarterbacks when Iowa has been lucky to have one on their entire roster for the last couple of years. Let's think about the past. Spencer Petras. Okay, was he Big Ten level starting quarterback? Fringe, okay? I would say somewhat, but on the low end, okay? Alex Padilla was not. Marco Lainez, who I actually liked what we saw from him against Kentucky. Obviously, there wasn't really a ton there, as Tim Lester didn't have a ton of, positive, high, because if Tim Lester felt really good about Marco Lainez, aka Marco Lainez long-term, we would have heard it by now. He never spoke poorly about him, but he never came out and said, man, we got a good one moving forward. Man, I'm really liking the strides that Marco Lainez is taking. He might not be ready this year, but he'll be ready move on. We never heard any of that. And guess what? Guess where Marco Lainez ended up? Elon College. Okay, I don't even know what division that is. I don't think it's Division 1 FBS. It might be FCS. I have no idea. That just illustrates how bottom of the barrel. Peyton Manziel ended up going to Abilene Christian, FCS level, okay? And if I remember correctly, he didn't even really play very much. I liked the quarterback that transferred to Ball State. I'm blanking on his name right now, as I thought he had good size and a decent arm. Or actually, where did he go? Was it Eastern Michigan? Let's see. It may have been Western Michigan. Let me take a look real quick. Joey Labus, took me long enough to find that, who went to Central Michigan. I mean, Joey Labus hit the transfer portal again, and he finished with 1,114 yards, 58.8% passer percentage, completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 7 INTs. Okay, it looked like at the beginning of the year he might not do too bad, but now, granted, his pure quarterback rating was 122.9, which is not terrible, but his QBR was 34.2, which is below average of 50. So I digress. Okay, Iowa. The quarterbacks that Brian Ferentz recruited after Ken O'Keefe left and Greg Davis left, even though they had their issues as well, specifically Greg Davis, have been terrible. Outside of Nate Stanley, that is the last successful quarterback Iowa has had. The room needed so much revamp. It needed so much. And he has done that in less than 2 full years as Iowa's offense coordinator. That was his number one objective when coming to Iowa. Boom. When coming to Iowa, his number one objective was to improve the quality of the quarterback room. He's done it. Even if Iowa didn't land Mark Gronowski, I have said previously, I said it last year, when Iowa landed Jackson Stratton and they were able to get Ryan Fitzgerald as a walk-on, the son of former Northwestern football Pat Fitzgerald. And somehow Iowa was able to take Brennan Sullivan, who was likely the preeminent starter for Northwestern. They were able to take him and get him onto the Iowa roster, even though he knew that he probably would not be the starter, at least initially. Okay, he has made the room better. Again, has it all been at once, immediately in year one, gone from a F to a B? No. It gradually went there. He's been methodical, but and he's been patient, but it also has not been slow, okay? He hasn't even finished 2 full years. So I am pleased with the work that he has done in the quarterback room. It is far more already than Brian Ferentz ever did. Okay, I know Brian Ferentz landed Cade McNamara, but Brian Ferentz never had these super hard conversations with the quarterback and never, was super aggressive in the transfer portal to encourage competition in the room and to kind of have the guys battle each other. And if they weren't good enough to stay and they didn't think they could compete with the guys that came in, they would be gone, and kind of through osmosis, the room would get better. Okay, that never happened. It never happened. So that's that. Okay. As for Mark Grownoski, immediately, in my evaluation of his talent level, the guy is already I think he is, because he's older, I think he's and more refined as a quarterback. He is a better passer. He is the number one passer already on the Iowa roster. It's close between him and Hank Brown. Okay, Hank Brown is also a really good passer. But I would still give the nod to Gronowski because Gronowski has the game experience and is more physically developed at 220 pounds. Okay. Now, on the flip side, Gronowski has played against FCS competition, which is not nothing. Okay. FCS is still really good, but you guys would be surprised across the board how big of a jump and how much faster and more physical and how much quicker the big guys and everybody on the field can move from low-level Big Ten to your upper end FCS schools. Okay, can the top 25 FCS schools occasionally compete with FBS teams or Power 4 teams? Sure. But by and large, your worst Big Ten team plays the game faster with bigger guys, with smaller passing lanes and all whatever than the top 25 by and large in the FCS. Okay. But it's not nothing. The FCS is not nothing. Okay, but I do want to put it into perspective. It's not like Gronowski is coming to Iowa and having those stats after playing in the SEC, which is fine. Iowa would not have been able to land him had he been an SEC quarterback that had those stats. Why? Because he'd probably be in the NFL. Okay, but at the same time, the fact that this guy was actually even considered for the NFL, I think says a lot. Iowa immediately has a quarterback that has NFL talent, has legitimate NFL talent, which when is the last time you've been able to say that about an Iowa quarterback? When's the last time? Nate Stanley? That's it. So looking at his highlights, let's look at his stats real quick, and then I'll tell you what I like about his highlights. I don't want this video to be too long because I do have to get going. In 2020, he had 1,584 yards, 15 touchdowns to 3 INTs with a rating of 151. 2022, 65.2 completion percentage, 2,967 yards, 26 touchdowns, 5 INTs. That was a really good year for him with a 156.5 pure passer rating. And in 2023, he had 209 of 307, 68 completion percentage, 3,058 yards, 29 touchdowns, 5 INTs for 179.7. That is definitely his best year. And this past year, he was a 60.9 completion percentage, 2,721 yards, 23 touchdowns, 7 INTs with a 146.9. And then rushing, in 2020, he had 577 yards. 2022, he had 408. 2023, 402. And 2024, 380. So this is what I would say about Gronowski. The dude definitely has a big arm. He's got a fluid arm. He threw some dimers that I saw in the highlight video, and perhaps I'll link it in the description. I just typed in Mark Gronowski highlights, and it's from Hyper. The YouTube channel is Hyper Highlights. It's titled Mark Gronowski South Dakota State Highlights. Okay, and the dude had multiple passes that was an over the shoulder or back fade pass that I have not seen an Iowa quarterback make in 2 or 3 years. Or I struggle to remember passes like that. Okay? For the past 2-3 years. Cade McNamara, Spencer Petras, even Brendan Sullivan. Most of the passes that the Iowa quarterbacks have been able to make recently are passes that you or I could probably make. Okay? And that's what separates quarterbacks that have NFL talent and the quarterbacks that don't. The quarterbacks that do have NFL talent are quarterbacks that can throw guys open, okay, where there's this much space, but they have such a good arm that they're able to just drop it right in the breadbasket, dimer, good, first down, okay? And he can do that. Again, granted, it was by and large against FCS competition. There were some great throws in there. He definitely likes throwing to his tight ends. Let's see. He definitely likes throwing to his tight ends. Again, it's against FCS competition, but FCS is not nothing. And he did have a decent game against Oklahoma State. He didn't have the best game against Iowa's elite defense. Let's see when. Let me see if I can find when he played. I can't remember when South Dakota State played Iowa. I think it was last year, wasn't it? Or not this last year, but the year before this most recent year. Let's look 2023. As for him as a runner, okay, he has really good size. He stands really strong in the pocket. He climbs the pocket. He doesn't just run away super quick. Again, it's only highlights, and your highlights show your best plays, and it can make you look a little bit better than maybe you are on a play-to-play basis. But still, he had a lot of great plays. He's got good size at 6'3". He's broad. He's got wide shoulders. The best way I can describe his physique is he is what Deacon Hill would look like if Deacon Hill was actually in shape. if you know what I'm saying. Like, he's got that size and kind of that build, but he's actually in shape. He's actually in the weight room and got a solid physique. So Iowa, he played Iowa in 2022, and they lost 7-3. He went 10 of 26 for 87 yards. And so it was not his best game, and he ran 10 times for minus 21 yards. So him as a runner, he's an advantageous runner. He does it out of necessity to open up the pass game. He is definitely not a run-first quarterback, but he can run. He can escape the pocket. He's more of a physical runner, okay? He's definitely fast as a quarterback. Not the fastest, but he's still fast. He can move just fine. I wouldn't say he's as quick as Brendan Sullivan is. Brendan Sullivan's a little bit more explosive and dynamic with cuts. Mark Gronowski is more of a downhill, has the speed to get out to make throws if needed, but when he is scrambling, it's barreling downhill. He can make maybe one or two cuts, nothing crazy. Okay, you're probably not gonna see what you saw from Brendan Sullivan, where he went this way and reversed back this way. You're probably not gonna see that. Okay, all right. What does this mean? Who do I think will be? I'm trying to speed this along because, like I said, I don't have a ton of time. Who do I think the starting quarterback will be, and who do I think is the number one with this in mind? So let me start here. I do think that there is a good chance. That that Brendan Sullivan decides to transfer, especially if after. I don't think he will do it immediately. Although, again, even that, I would not be surprised. I think that if I had to lean towards one way or the other, I think Brendan Sullivan will stay through camp, through the workouts and through the first camp, and kind of see where things are at, and so get his own two eyes on Mark Gronowski and see how good of a quarterback he is. Because make no mistake, these players have their own two eyes. They can see whether somebody is better than them or not. And then we will see whether he stays. Now, he has said that he is all about competing and earning the spot. And he's been told in the past that, if he can't win the starting quarterback job at Iowa, then, what does that say? Overall, if he wants to be anything, he has to be able to win the starting quarterback job at Iowa. And I do understand that, except when you have a quarterback that's literally the same class as you that is an NFL caliber quarterback. Okay. Then it is not, it's not the same situation. So I would not be surprised if he does decide to transfer. That is kind of my prediction is he'll stay. He'll get his own eyes on the talent level of Mark Gronowski, and we'll go from there. Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if he did stay, but I would lean towards he will probably transfer out. I hope he doesn't, because as a selfish Iowa fan, I want Iowa's room to be as talented as possible, but I wouldn't be surprised. The bottom line is Brennan Sullivan was given every opportunity to show that he was the guy and instill confidence in Tim Lester to where Tim Lester didn't feel he needed to go and get a one-year starter for the Iowa Hawkeyes, because Brendan Sullivan was that one-year starter. If he got anybody, it would be more like a Hank Brown or younger quarterbacks that could develop as time went on. So, Brendan Sullivan did not do enough to get there, okay? So it's going to be Gronowski 1, Sully 2, Hank Brown 3, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Hank Brown's ends up surpassing Brendan Sullivan. But there will be a quarterback competition, but Gronowski is the numero uno going into it. All right, that is it. This is a huge get. This greatly helps Iowa's transfer portal class. Iowa still has not been able to land on some key positions, such as the defensive back group. I would have liked to see Iowa land at least one offensive lineman, even though next year they look to be good, maybe a more developmental prospect with a few years of eligibility remaining. But this is probably the second best transfer portal group, just looking at the talent coming in, not looking at how they ended up doing at Iowa or anything like that, but just looking at the names that were brought in an actual transfer portal class, their ratings, and kind of the expectations around them. This is probably the second best. But I really like the long-term projection of Hank Brown. And as for the defensive tackle, let me get his situation pulled up here. I forgot his name. Let's see here. Bryce Hawthorne, of course, is his name. As I said at the beginning of the video, he will compete, and I think he will be in the rotation immediately. I would give this pickup a B+A. These are the type of guys that Iowa will have to land, by and large. He has a grade of an 87, according to 247 Sports. He was a freshman All-American, 6'3", 285 pounds. These are the guys that Iowa has to land. Kind of, under the radar. They put together really good FCS campaigns where they were like a FCS All-American. They don't have a big name. They maybe weren't recruited super high like a Caleb Brown out of high school, 4-star. Guys that don't have kind of like a bias behind their name because they were super highly recruited. These are the guys that Iowa needs to uncover and find, because if you're Iowa, you don't want you want to stay out of as many bidding wars as you can. Unfortunately, Iowa did not land, and I'm sure they tried to, one of the wide receivers that transferred out of South Dakota State as well, and I think he landed at Northwestern. if I'm not mistaken. There are some wide receiver targets that Iowa is still in on, and that is yet another position group that Iowa is currently failing in. Now, hopefully, with the addition of Mark Gronowski, Iowa is in a better position to land a decent wide receiver in the portal. Sam Phillips is still a name. There's still some other names out there, so we'll see. So keep an eye out. There will be more names at the wide receiver position that drop as time goes. Iowa obviously will keep trying. But the last thing I will say is I see a lot of people saying that Iowa, before Iowa landed Gronowski, is like a 6-6 team as far as the talent goes. No, Iowa still has a lot of talent. This is a developmental program. Iowa has recruited just fine. The running back room is in a good place. The wide receiver room is as talented as it's ever been, even without the transfer portal targets. Next year, Iowa's wide receiver room, if everybody's able to stay healthy, will be as talented, probably will be the most talented since the Amir Smith, Marset, and Brandon Smith wide receiver group with Tyrone Tracy. Tight end room looks good. Offensive line room is looking good. I don't know where this 6-6 garbage is coming from. And now with the quarterback being picked up, it's good. Now, Kirk Ferentz is still Kirk Ferentz. Time will tell how that works out. Whether Iowa will still be the same old Iowa and the same old play call, all that stuff. But we've seen some good things in year one from Tim Lester to possibly think otherwise. So that is it. We're at 30 minutes. Transfer portal update part 4, I believe. This is I would give this a grade of an A for a pickup. Very big get for Iowa. Very excited. Great news. Iowa stayed the course. They were patient. This is a 4-star quarterback target for Iowa. Pickup in the transfer portal. You can't beat it. So I think that Mark Gronowski immediately is the most talented quarterback Iowa has had since Nate Stanley on the roster. And yes, that even includes Cade McNamara. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy. Will facts our feelings because your feelings just don't matter. I love you guys. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.